to go in overtime. Minnesota steadying things now. Sabally nearly got to another. New York by 3. They leave Collier alone. She stops, gets denied by guess who? Niara Sabally.
Miscommunication initially between Breanna Stewart and Niara Sabally leaves the lane open for Napheesa Collier, but the recovery, we've talked about Fee and how she pauses. Great block.
Heidemann to inbound, has to get it in, running out of time. Finds Collier. Heidemann out of bounds. Last hit Minnesota. New York basketball.
The switch, this time Breanna Stewart on Natisha Heidemann, takes away all of her vision. 7'1" wingspan, 6'4" length. Hits the ball off of Natisha Heidemann. Off of Heidemann's foot, and that's an easy one to see because of the fluorescent shoes.
New York will take a timeout and reset here with 1:15 to go in overtime. And the Liberty a 65-62 lead on Minnesota. Rebecca, so often the Liberty are at their best.
Plays. Who's going to make them?
Breanna Stewart has not sat in this game. Jonquel Jones has played 40 minutes. Napheesa Collier has played 43. Kayla McBride has played 42. 1:15 to go in overtime. New York basketball leading by 3. Stewart's free throws in the final seconds tied this game and sent it to overtime after she had missed 2 at possession earlier.
Stewart initiating.
Courtney Williams back in for Minnesota. Here's Jones, 10 to shoot. Thiebish turns, dishes, Ionescu, 6 to shoot, Ionescu, short, Smith the rebound. Another chance for Minnesota. Ionescu now 1 for 18. Williams has the switch on Jones. Williams dishes, Smith loses it, and Stewart has it for New York. 5th turnover of overtime for Minnesota. Here's Ionescu, crowd on its feet, under 30 seconds to go. Liberty by 3. Ionescu gives it up. Stewart gives it back. Ionescu! No! Misses again! Sabrina Ionescu has had chance after chance and is 1 for 19 from the floor. Remarkable that New York is winning this game with the shooting struggles of Stewart and Ionescu.
New York has done just enough on the defensive end of the floor to have this lead, and they've had monster game from their bench. 15 points off their bench compared to only 6 for Minnesota. New York's defense in this overtime has been locked down when they've needed it to be. Coming in, Niara Sabally has had an impact, a huge impact on that end of the floor. Help side has been there. Sabrina Ionescu in a stance. Thiebish as well. They switch when they need to. So far have gotten just enough stops. Ryan, will they get another one, or will Minnesota find their own magic once again here in Barclays?
Minnesota, a single field goal in overtime. New York, 2. And they came right away. The Thiebish 3 off the tip looms large in an overtime. Both teams have struggled to score. Minnesota still with a reset timeout. New York does not have a foul to give. How about the Liberty here? Do they foul up 3 rather than give Minnesota a chance to tie? Still a lot of time left with 18 seconds.
You, of course, would have to wait for the clock to dwindle, but Sandy Brondello traditionally has not fouled up 3 late game situations.
Minnesota was number 1 in the league at three-point shooting percentage. Tonight, they're 3 for 18. Obviously, plenty of time. They do not need a 3. New York 65, Minnesota 62, 18.4 to go in OT. Williams gets it in. Carlton to tie. No! Sabally the rebound. Pitches back. And Thornton is fouled. Minnesota had one to give. A great look for Bridget Carlton. A very good three-point shooter, but unable to hit.
Bridget Carlton has made game winners, including in the regular season against Connecticut. This is a great shot for her. New York had their rebounding, their big rebounding lineup in to corral the ball.
Now New York still has a timeout and a reset should they struggle with the inbound. Now if that foul's on Collier, it's number 6, and she is gone. "22 points, 7 rebounds from Collier, who has had a historically great playoffs and who is just entering her prime as a star in this league." Ionescu will inbound, and Minnesota has to get a 5th player on the court.
Before Nafisa came out of the game, it looked like Sandy Brondell might call a timeout, and Brianna Stewart looked at her and said no.
Inbound goes to Stewart. Stewart not fouled yet. Now she is, with just over 10 seconds remaining. And Brianna Stewart back at the line. This time perhaps with a chance to seal it. Stewart missed 2 critical free throws in the final seconds of regulation, but then got a second chance. With under 4 seconds to go, she hit both to tie the game and send it into overtime. Here to make it a 2-possession lead for New York. You bet. Offense, defense, as Ionescu goes out, Thornton comes in. These fans starting to taste it. Got them both. Minnesota takes its reset. Xanda Lassini in. Juhasz out. New York by 5 in overtime. Swin Cash and Teaspoon can barely stand the excitement. The Liberty this close to their first title in a forever finals. Carlton will inbound. Carlton lobs it in, taken away by Phoebus. Off to Stewart. 28 years in the making. The New York Liberty are WNBA champions. The original franchise has its very first title. "67-62, the final in a classic overtime Game 5 win. And the fans in this crowd who've waited nearly 3 decades for this moment, overcome with emotion. You see the tears falling from Teaspoon. Sabrina Ionescu hugging her husband, Aronis. What a performance from Niara Sabally, who